Hello, I'm Cece Garrett. I'm a licensed independent clinical social worker in Moses Lake, Washington, and I specialize in the treatment of hoarding disorder and supporting families, especially adult children who have been impacted by a parent's hoarding. One of the things I love to do is to collect questions from family members and others about hoarding disorder because one of the things that's really challenging is that one, there's a lot of stigma and misunderstanding attached to hoarding disorder. And this is very impactful to family members because that means that they're not likely to reach out for additional support. And so, one of the things I offer, and you can find a link in the description below, is an opportunity to ask me anything about hoarding. I respond via a recording just like this one. I send it directly through the website to the individual who requests the information. And then I also share this on my YouTube channel because there are so few resources for family members who are impacted by a loved one's hoarding. So today's question is one that I think a lot of adult children have and doesn't often get addressed because it's kind of not recognized, I don't think, broadly, that the culture of a family impacted by hoarding is so dramatically different than the typical family. So things that happen in the family home in a non-hoarding household are dramatically different. So the question was posed. It's easy to feel like you don't need to clean things since you're so used to things not being clean. It's easy to ignore doing the laundry, dishes, mopping, really anything else when you have a higher discomfort tolerance for these things than most other people. I'll tell you that's true for me. I definitely have a higher distress tolerance around this than most people. That said, I do like things clean. I can tolerate more than most people. The question then is, what are some strategies to help prioritize cleaning, especially when there are these internalized messages, my job is more important than cleaning, or I don't really need to do this? Really, really great question. And I think that it comes down to taking baby steps. So recognizing that there's a need and a desire to change the behavior, then we look at strategies that will help us do something new. And we look at things like rewarding ourselves. So, what is something that would have a high impact if I started engaging with it daily? I'm going to refer to somebody who has done some work around clutter, the Fly Lady. And why I'm going to reference Fly Lady is because she has a great amount of free resources for learning to take care of things in bite-sized ways. And one of the things that she starts with is, making sure your sink, your kitchen sink, is clean, empty each night before you go to bed. It's a great way to start. Another strategy she has is if you get up in the morning, is making sure that once you get up, you get dressed, you brush your teeth, you get your shoes on, right? Now, I know some of you might say, and I'm this way, I don't wear my shoes in my house, right? Okay, you can still get up, brush your teeth, brush your hair, get dressed, and start your day. So these are little strategies. The other important piece is to look at rewarding, right? When we're trying to establish new behaviors, think not that we are dogs, but think about behavior, true behavior shaping. A lot of times we then reward the behavior that we want, right? That's called uh, ironically, it's called reward, right? So we do this in behavior. Punishment is something that we do to decrease a behavior. So, what are some rewards once you've established something that you want to be focused on shaping as a new behavior? And start with just one thing. Maybe it's doing the dishes every night, right? Yes, you can tolerate more sink dishes in your sink than most people, but that doesn't mean that you need to do that. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Distress tolerance skills are great, But if we want that not to be who we are, then we just start doing it every day. And then maybe it's saying, okay, well, there's some guilty pleasure. I think of something I really love watching certain shows. So perhaps if I were shaping this, I would say, okay, well, I really like this show, and that show's really motivating. So instead of just trying to do my dishes every night, I'm going to do my dishes every night before I watch whatever show, right? Dairy Girls, ER, whatever it is, right? Your thing is your thing. Maybe you're doing it before you engage in gaming, but kind of creating a pattern of reward for doing the behavior. And remember, you can reward yourself even if you don't finish the task, but you might start with starting the dishes every night. Maybe it takes a couple of days, a couple of weeks to get really consistent in starting and finishing, but we reward for the start as well as then rewarding for the completion. Other things to consider is when we're putting something into our routine that's new is bookending. Where am I already doing something every day? And can I somehow tie this together? We do this a lot when we're doing medication compliance. I'll ask a client who's struggling to get a medication they're supposed to take daily. What are you doing first thing in the morning every day? Oh, I'm brushing my teeth. I'm washing my face. Great. So, can we put the bottle of your prescription next to your toothpaste? Now, can we put, I mean, perhaps it's something that needs to be done at bedtime. Is this something that we can put a sign next to the switch or below your bedside lamp? Can you put your bottle if it's a bedtime medication, right? So what are some things you're doing already every day, and can you do it then? Perhaps you're making a lunch every morning, and this is something where you're going to have to plan a little bit because now you're walking out the door. But can you get up 10 minutes earlier? And before you make your lunch or just after you make your lunch, can you make sure to wipe down the counter and to put away any dishes that you've used to make lunch? Right? So there's different ways to do this. The big thing is really to get clear on why. Why do you want to change these behaviors? As the writer mentioned, that there's a discomfort tolerance, a distress tolerance around cleanliness and chores. And I'm just going to tell you, while we often see these glorified images of minimalist existences, super clean, super sterile environments, it's a personal choice. As long as our environment works for us and it's not creating a health or safety issue, be also gentle with yourself that maybe it isn't an everyday task for all of these things. So maybe start with every other day and figure out what's really important. What about who you are or who you wanted to be? Does this line up with? And then on the days when you struggle to get started and even the idea of the reward afterwards isn't motivating, really knowing who you are and how you want to show up in your life, in the world, and being able to come back to that value, that code of honor. This is who I want to be. This is how I want to engage. And perhaps it's this. I want to be a person who takes care of my space and myself and doesn't let things go. That's really important to me. So the days when you're struggling, you come back to that same message. I'm a person who takes care of myself and my things, and I don't let things get out of hand. And so when I don't feel like doing something, that's a core value, my code of honor. That's who I want to be. And I'm going to do this even when it feels hard, it's not motivating. There's better things to do. I hope that's a great place for you to start making steps. And don't be afraid, while I don't have these videos, I do know if you search YouTube, other channels create videos for how to do these tasks efficiently. And that's another piece. Don't be afraid to do some research about how to make these things efficient and to do them. Thanks for the question. If you're watching and you have your own question, jump over to the website, submit your Ask Me Anything About Hoarding question. I'm happy to respond. Have a great day.